Hi and welcome. I'm Angelina from the Upper Key, the Airbnb management company for all your hosting needs. Today, I'm going to share how Upper Key does to get the best Airbnb guests. Respectful guests mean happy neighbors, which also means having a great retention rate of properties and thus happy owners. Upper Key is the tenant of more than 150 properties in London, Dubai, Malta, Miami, and Paris. So let's get into it. We all know how opening up your property to guests can be a wonderful experience. But there are some traps to avoid, so let's kick off this list for my first tip. Be the early bird. A good sign that you're getting a responsible guest is if they've booked ahead of time. No doubt you've heard horror stories of a guest making a last-minute booking on a Friday night, only to have a party that gets a host kicked off the Airbnb platform. So, ensure that doesn't happen to you by filling up your calendar in advance. Fine-tuning your listing, keeping an eye on your competitors, and having a strong cancellation policy will appeal to responsible guests. Consider clauses about noise pollution, music planning, and curfews. You might want to add something about deducting from deposit if there are neighbor complaints or police called out. Basically, make it clear that your listing is exclusively for well-behaved guests only. It's tempting to let the guests decide their minimum stay. Perhaps your property is perfect for stayovers, or maybe you're short on cash, so want a few one-night stays. The problem, though, is a no minimum stay opens up your home to anyone. If you set a minimum set of days, especially if you avoid the weekends, then it can help focus on guests who are renting your place for a relaxing time. Understandably, weekend rentals are very popular if you live in a vacation spot, but do research on the types of demographics that populate your area during the high season. Does your seaside spot get easygoing retirees, families with young children, or spring breakers? Select with care. Remember, you have the power to decide who enters your property, so use it. Of course, it's very easy to let the app do the work for you. Vetting guests takes time out of your day, so I don't blame you for feeling like you're being inconvenienced. But taking a little bit of time to scrutinize your applications could be the difference between a wonderful return guest and a headache that never ends. Seize the opportunity to ensure that the booking suits your needs just as much as it does your guests. For example, if your property is non-smoking, but your guest's profile suggests a fondness for tobacco, then maybe you don't want to risk your curtains getting that musky barbecue smell. Ask, and you shall receive. Be clear in your house rules. Put them in your profile in concise bullet points. Leave no room for interpretation or uncertainty. But this is more than being transparent. It also sets the tone for the kind of guests you want. If you're worried that you might seem pushy for expecting guests to close the gate on your farm's sheep field, for example, then you'll be even more worried when your flock goes missing because a laid-back guest was a little too laid back. If everyone knows what to expect, then everything will run smoothly. So avoid any nasty surprises by making it clear how things are going to work. Chit-chat and charm. Be on hand to answer any questions that come your way, but also be sure that you're not some robotic customer service drone. You're a host, and these are your guests, so be positive and friendly. When guests feel cared for, they're more likely to take care of your property. It's not exactly the same as meeting someone on a dating app, but I'd say that if your guest seems disinterested in you, then they might be disinterested in the property. You don't want your place treated like a two-bit motel, so engage with your guests to help them feel at home. That way, they'll treat your home like a home. Speaking of which, the next top tip is home sweet home. Going the extra mile will help you with your guest satisfaction rating, which in turn will attract more responsible guests. Ratings are important, and customers use them when making a decision on Airbnb. If guests raving about your little touches and wow factor, then it gives you a reputation for excellence. Setting high expectations can not only help you raise your prices, but it helps attract appropriate guests. Guests who will be happy and appreciate the effort the host puts into making their stay comfortable. For example, spotless cleanliness will be noticed and talked about, which means people who know they are not the best at tidying their room will know they need to act better if they're going to stay at yours. That brings us to aim for returning clients. Every great guest should be a returning guest. Imagine not having to worry about vetting customers because you know your place is in safe, reliable hands. At Upper Key, we host 40,000 guests a year, so we work hard to make sure the best ones come back. And the best way to make sure that happens? Having strong checks. When you ask for ID, get your guest to take a selfie next to it. That way, someone isn't trying to pull a fast one with another person's ID, AI-generated imagery, or their older sibling's driver's license. A strong damage deposit will deter careless guests too, which will help you zero in on business people and families. Hands down, the two best groups for returning, respectful, reliable guests. These tips are how we keep bad clients at bay and keep our retention rate at 99%. That's right, the Upper Key has a retention rate that's literally almost perfect. So get in touch with us to see how we can manage your property for you. And if you have any tips of your own for getting the best Airbnb guests, then share them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from our community. And be sure to subscribe because we'll be back with new videos to help you on your Airbnb journey.